The Republican National Convention, the first and only time Donald Trump has renewed his vows. And going into the convention, I thought it was going to be tough for Donald Trump to sell himself for another 4 years. I mean, mostly because, we live in a plague-scarred hellscape where 180,000 people have died and we can't go to a movie or hug our grandparents. But then, I watched the convention. And guys, it turns out that Donald Trump has actually done a really good job by preventing all of that from happening.
From the very beginning, Democrats, the media, and the World Health Organization got coronavirus wrong. One leader took decisive action to save lives: President Donald Trump.
The president quickly took action and shut down travel from China.
Donald Trump's quick action and leadership saved thousands of lives during COVID-19.
President Trump truly moved mountains to save lives, and he deserves credit.
Just imagine what 2020 would have looked like, fighting for your life without Donald Trump fighting for it too.
Imagine what 2020 would have been like without Donald Trump. Hey, do you want to go eat dinner inside a restaurant? Okay, cool. I'll see you then. You're right. That would have sucked. Essentially, they're trying to convince everyone that this massive failure is actually a massive achievement, which is not something normal people do when they apply for a job. I see on your resume here, it says that you crashed a car into Dunkin' Donuts. Yeah, dude. But it would have been like a lot worse if Joe Biden was driving. And it's especially crazy, considering that at the last RNC, all they talked about was the 4 dead Americans in Benghazi. But now, they're acting like Trump did a great job by only having 45,000 Benghazis. But I guess it's true. Without Trump taking any action, millions more Americans could have died. So good on Republicans for seeing the glass of bleach half full. But Trump's failure with coronavirus is only one perception Republicans needed to change at their convention. Another one is that the GOP is a WAP, a white-ass party. So last night, the party showcased their diversity by giving speakers slots to all 4 of America's black Trump supporters. And I don't know what they're going to do for the rest of the week. I mean, Tim Scott has already spoken. So they're going to have to bring him back out on Wednesday with a fake mustache like, "Hello, it's me, Senator Brimschmott, and I also support Donald Trump." And while some of the black speakers last night attested to how not racist Trump is, one of the speakers went even further and declared that the real racists are the Democrats.
You may be wondering, why is a lifelong Democrat speaking at the Republican National Convention? And that's a fair question. And here's your answer. The Democratic Party does not want black people to leave their mental plantation. We've been forced to be there for decades and generations. But I have news for Joe Biden. We are free. We are free people with free minds.
So let me get this straight. When other groups organize and vote by their interests, they get a fancy name like voting blocks. But when black people do it, you get told you're acting like an extra on Roots? And why is it that the people who always say, "You should be a free thinker," have a very specific set of instructions on how to think? Think for yourselves, black people! All right, man, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna vote for the Democrats. No, I said think for yourselves. Vote Republican. Okay, maybe I'll vote independent. Yo, you better start thinking for yourself. I mean, black women in this country vote Democrat more than anybody else. And I'll tell you now, nobody is more of a free thinker than a black woman. I dare you to try and brainwash a black woman. You'll come out of there joining her cult. I'm in the cult of I should have shut my mouth. And also, this argument is especially confusing coming from this dude. Because he's saying the Democrats are trying to enslave you. Also, I'm a lifelong Democrat. That's like every confused meme on the internet at once. Like, does that mean he's keeping his own voters on the mental plantation? I feel like I need to watch 12 Years a Mental Slave to understand what the f he's talking about. Now, to be fair, it's not that the RNC completely denied the existence of racism in America. They just think that racism is a less systemic problem and more of a personal obstacle on the way to an inspirational triumph. And 2 of their best speeches, actually, came from people who have made that exact journey.
America is not a racist country. My father wore a turban. My mother wore a sari. I was a brown girl in a black and white world. We faced discrimination and hardship, but my parents never gave in to grievance and hate.
My grandfather's 99th birthday would have been tomorrow. He suffered the indignity of being forced out of school as a third grader. Yet, he lived long enough to see his grandson become the first African American to be elected to both the United States House and the United States Senate in the history of this country. Our family went from cotton to Congress in one lifetime.
Look, whatever you think about Nikki Haley and Tim Scott, you cannot deny that they have inspiring stories. But here's the thing about them using their stories to show how exceptional America is. Haley and Scott are literally the exceptions. The fact that Tim Scott is one of the only black senators and Nikki Haley was one of the only minority governors is, if anything, an argument for the existence of systemic racism in America, not against it. Imagine being the sole survivor of a plane crash, looking around at the wreckage and going, wow, I wish all these other passengers could have persevered and overcome this crash just like me. Shout out to Boeing! I mean, if America didn't have a racism problem, then their achievements wouldn't be a big deal. Getting elected as a minority would be as easy as, say, mailing a letter. Well, I mean, that's a bad example, but you know what I mean. What I want is a world where a black man becoming a senator isn't inspirational. That's when black people will have really made it. When there's a black senator who's just like, yeah, so my dad was a CEO, and then his billionaire friend started a super PAC, so I guess I'm here now. Of course, there's really only one speaker anyone at the Republican convention wants to hear from, and that's Donald Jerry Falwell Trump. Well, I'm sorry to tell you that the president did not speak in primetime last night, but we did get a speech from his oldest disappointment, Don Jr., who briefly turned the convention into an infomercial.
My father's entire worldview revolves around the idea that we can always do even better. Imagine the life you want to have. One with a great job, a beautiful home, a perfect family. You can have it. Imagine the country you want to live in. One with true equal opportunity. You can have it. Heroes are celebrated and the good guys win. You can have it. That is the life. That is the country. That is the world that Donald Trump and the Republican Party are after. And yes, you can have it.
Honestly, put your hating aside, you have to admit Don Jr. would make a great motivational speaker. And not in the traditional way, where he inspires you with quotes, more like in a way where people would look at him and say, if that guy can run a giant company and speak at a major political convention, that guy? Just imagine what I can accomplish if I put my mind to it. Also, if Donald Trump has already been president for almost 4 years, then why do we still have to imagine how great life could be if he was president? Trump's presidency is like your 48-year-old cousin's DJ career. If it hasn't been successful by now, it's not gonna be. But if Don Jr. couldn't get you on board with his vision of America, maybe the problem was that your TV volume wasn't loud enough. In which case, Don's girlfriend and former Fox News host Kimberly Guilfoyle turned it up for you.
Do you believe in American greatness? Believe in yourself, in President Trump. His promise was to put America first, and he has. President Trump believes in you. He emancipates and lifts you up to live your American dream. You are capable. You are qualified, you are powerful, and you have the ability to choose your life and determine your destiny. Ladies and gentlemen, leaders and fighters for freedom and liberty and the American dream, the best is yet to come.
Did that seem kind of loud to anyone? First of all, I want to wish a speedy recovery to anyone who was listening on headphones. I'm praying for you. And I guess we also found the one person who actually signed up for Rudy Giuliani's masterclass.
America!
You know when you're at a party and the music turns off and then all of a sudden you're talking way too loud? That's basically what Guilfoyle did for an entire speech. And then I shat my pants! And aside from the speech being so loud that Canada called the cops, the actual content was also ridiculous. Donald Trump believes in me? The dude also believes in Kim Jong-un and hydroxychloroquine. I don't want to be in that group. So, those were the big speeches. A full-throated defense of the idea that there's nothing Americans can't do if they put their minds to it. Although, there was also another big idea running through the whole night, which is that the one thing Americans won't be able to overcome is Joe Biden, who will leave the country a permanently smoking ruin.
Joe Biden and the radical left are now coming for our freedom of speech.
They want to destroy this country. They want to steal your liberty, your freedom. You will not recognize this country or yourself.
They want to abolish the suburbs altogether. No matter where you live, your family will not be safe.
The vengeful mob that seeks to destroy our way of life.
A party that wants to burn down the foundations of our country to the ground.
Crime, violence, and mob rule.
They'll disarm you, empty the prisons, lock you in your home, and invite MS-13 to live next door.
With no hope of escape except death itself.
Good God, I'm terrified and confused. Because if Joe Biden gets elected, MS-13 is going to move in next door. But we won't live there anymore because we'll be kicked out of the suburbs. And if we try to go to church, the Democrats will call the cops on us. But there won't be any cops because they defunded the police. So we'll have to take ourselves to prison. But they abolished the prisons. So now all the criminals are out on the streets, which means they can shoot us. But they can't shoot us because the Democrats have taken away all the guns, which means all we can do is fight with our words. But we can't because words have been canceled. I don't know what it means. I mean, damn. That was a terrifying evening. No wonder Don Jr. was crying. But here's the thing that I don't think Republicans understand. It's hard to scare people about the damage Joe Biden could do after the damage Donald Trump has already done. Joe Biden could destroy your way of life. Dude, I'm Clorox wiping my grapes. How much worse could shit get? Oh, and by the way, this is also a lesson for the Democrats. Because they spent 4 days of their convention basically pitching a return to normalcy and bringing Republicans into their tent. I mean, John Kasich gave a full 4-minute speech and AOC had to fit hers into a TikTok. But it didn't count for shit. The RNC is still saying that Joe Biden is basically Joseph Stalin with a better smile. But that was night one of the RNC. And basically, the party made sure that they had something for everyone. For people who feel like the country's in chaos, Trump will make it better. For people who feel like things are going fine, well, you have Trump to thank for that. If you're a minority, racism is just a small bump on your way to an idyllic life in the suburbs. And if you're scared of minorities, don't worry. Trump is going to keep them out of your idyllic suburbs. If you're hard of hearing, Kimberly Guilfoyle has you covered. And if Kimberly Guilfoyle made you hard of hearing, well, President Trump will release his big, beautiful healthcare plan any day now.